What's up guys? Welcome to a brand new adventure, and let's actually get right into it because I don't want to waste any of your time. The character you're going to be playing today is a level 63 archer named Aldwin. You can see it there at the top left of your screen. Your stats are typical to what you would expect from an archer. You have very high dexterity, which is good. Makes you good with your hands, makes you good with your bows. You're going to deal a lot of damage. But you also have very high agility, which is also good. Makes you run fast, makes you jump high, and makes you able to climb pretty much anything. These two combos, these two stats, are very good if you're planning to play as an archer. The setting for this whole adventure is Great Britain and the year is 502 AD. Now the 6th century in England was pretty interesting. The Roman Empire had just fallen and its troops had been pulled back to the capital to sort of try to prevent the incoming destruction of the empire. And usually, when you have an empire that takes over a territory like we had when the Romans took over Great Britain in the 1st century AD, what tends to happen is that territory loses its own army. They don't have access to their own army anymore because, well, it was defeated by the Romans in this case. So in this case, with the Romans and Great Britain, their army became the Roman army, which makes sense, right? If you're an empire and you invade a different territory, you're going to place your army there to protect it. Now that's all well and good as long as the empire is alive and well, but the problem was that the Roman Empire was falling and its troops were being pulled back, leaving Britain literally without an army. And what does that mean? What kind of message does that send to the international scene? Well, it screams invasion. Of course, as you can expect, when you have Britain that has no army, nothing to defend itself, people are going to come to invade. The first invaders were a group of people that we call the Anglo-Saxons. They came from the land of modern-day Germany, and they were actually a group of 3 different people: the Angles, the Saxons, and the Jutes. Records show that they probably thought of themselves as such, as 3 different people, but for us, for simplicity, to make it easier on ourselves, we're just going to group them into one and call them the Anglo-Saxons. They were just your regular invaders trying to take some land for themselves since they saw that it was left mostly unprotected. And actually, they would soon succeed. They were going to take over the entire island and become its main inhabitants for like a few centuries, until a different people that we call the Normans would do to them the same thing that they were about to do to the people that lived here. And that's kind of what's going on right now. The Saxons have been invading for a couple of decades now, and it looks like, or at least it feels like, Britain will soon be under their complete control. Your questing has brought you to the town of Sarum, or Old Sarum, depending on how you want to call it. Being level 63, you're very close to the endgame. The quests are getting more difficult, the monsters are becoming more powerful, and of course the loot is getting better. Right now, you're in the forest. You're hunting. You know very well that the invasion is soon going to reach you, and you kinda need to level up. If you can get to level 70 before a battle, then that would be awesome. You would have access to a whole new arsenal of weapons and armors that would be very useful to helping you survive. Being an archer was a difficult class. It was like one of those classes that you had to pick very early on because it required a ton of practice. Depending on what kind of bow you wanted to use, right, the short bow, the long bow, or eventually the crossbow, you needed to have enough time to build up your strength because pulling a bow required a ton of strength. But at the same time, the benefit was that you could literally pierce an enemy's armor from so far away and actually deal a lot of damage. As you're hunting, you spot a deer in the distance. A fully grown, mature male deer. That's a lot of XP. But you got this. You've already hunted these many times before. You know exactly what to do. Plus, you kind of already had a reputation for having a pretty good shot. They said that you very rarely missed your target, which is not bad. You weren't Robin Hood, but I mean, you were pretty close. You get into position, you pull out your bow, you place your arrow, and you pull the bowstring with all of your acquired strength, and you're waiting. You're waiting for the perfect moment. You want to get it right to its heart, to inflict maximum damage and to kill it in one hit. You're waiting, and you shoot. It goes right for the heart, as you expected. Like you were good, the deer had no chance. It quickly falls down and dies instantly. You approach the deer to take a closer look at your prey and to prepare to skin it and to take its meat. But when you get there, you see that there's no deer. There's no arrow, there's no blood, and there's no sign of an animal. But like you were sure that you killed it. I mean, you just saw it fall down and die. Like, what's going on? You suddenly hear a sound from behind. Something is moving in the bushes. You turn around and you see a man appearing from behind a tree. A young man that has the physical description of somebody that you've heard about before. Somebody that goes by the name of Merlin. The man approaches you and introduces himself. It's Merlin. Wow, this was actually him. Now, Merlin was a very interesting character. He has a very unique story, if you will. It was said that his mother was raped against her will and without her own knowledge by a demon. Now, at first, people didn't really believe this, and when she was pregnant without her father, right? I mean, how could a demon impregnate a woman? Well, they put her to jail for adultery, as was pretty common in that era. Following the advice given to her by a priest just a few months before being put in jail, she baptized the child as soon as it was born. That baptism was supposed to break the demon's hold on the child and release him to be free to serve God instead of being bound by evil. Britain being largely Christian from the times of the Roman Empire, this story kind of made sense, like it fits well within the Christian narrative. However, Merlin, being the son of a demon, had magical powers. More specifically, he had the ability to prophesy, as well as to shapeshift into various forms at will, which explains why he just fooled you into thinking he was a deer. And because of these magical powers, and because of the fact that people say that he was born out of a demon, you're not too sure if you should trust him or not. I mean, sure, this was Merlin, but this was very early on in the story, in Merlin's life. But at the same time, you're alone with him in a forest. Like, what are you gonna do? There's kind of not much you can do. He's obviously higher level than you, and he could kill you if he really wanted to. He approaches you and reassures you that he's not here to harm you. Quite the contrary, he needs your help. He came out here specifically to see you. Something bad is gonna happen, something big, and you have to stop it. The future of the island, the future of Great Britain, literally depends on you. The Saxons are gearing up for another push on their invasion, Merlin says, and apparently this one is going to be bigger than anything they've ever done before. They plan to completely take over the east of the island, and if they do that, then it would ultimately mean game over for the Britons, for you. He says that all of this will go down in one single battle, a battle that will determine the future of this entire war, a battle that you must go to. Why are you going? Well, because you need to protect someone. You need to stop someone from being killed. You need to help this person win the battle and turn the tide of the war. You need to help Arthur, King of Camelot. Ooh, what? King Arthur? Like the legendary King Arthur? You don't believe what you're hearing. I mean, he was well known for his bravery and skill in battle, for having pulled the sword from the stone, and for wielding the famous Excalibur, a sword that granted him invincibility. Why do you have to save him? And why is this battle so important? Before we continue, let me talk a little bit about King Arthur and who he was. Arthur was a mythical figure that became popular in England around the 11th century. He was probably based on a real hero who lived much earlier, but we don't know for sure. All that we know is that he was very significant in the 6th century AD, pretty much the time that we're in right now. His birth was also unique. His father, King Uther, wanted his enemy's wife for himself. Together, he went and asked Merlin for help. Merlin, being a supernatural wizard with strong supernatural powers, transformed the king into his enemy so that he could be with the wife without her knowing that it was him. She thought it was her husband. Out of that encounter, if you will, came Arthur, an illegitimate child. Merlin took him away and gave him to a different family to be raised in secret so that nobody could know who he actually was. Then, a few years later, the king dies, and there's no heir to the throne, which puts the land at risk for chaos and disruption, right? Whenever there's no heir, things go crazy, people start killing each other, and it's never a good thing. To fix the situation and to choose a proper king, Merlin decides to put a sword in a rock and declares that whoever is able to pull that sword from the rock is the rightful king of England. Many people come, but not one of them is able to pull the rock, until Arthur. He pulled it, and then he was declared king. Merlin and Arthur then became great friends. Merlin became his advisor, forged them powerful weapons like the Excalibur, and Arthur became one of the greatest knights and kings of the fictional land of Camelot. And it turns out that now, you have to save him. Merlin tells you that he had a vision of the battle. That battle was going to be the decisive factor in pushing back the Saxons for a good chunk of time. King Arthur is going to be the leading warrior in the battle, and it will be because of him that the Britons win. The problem is that there are enemies that know of King Arthur and his weaknesses. You see, King Arthur had the sword Excalibur, which made him invincible as long as he held it in his hand. But the Excalibur was not the only weapon that Merlin had made for Arthur. There were a few others. There was a spear, there was a dagger, and a bow. Now the spear, Arthur didn't really use it because he preferred the Excalibur. I mean, it made him invincible. Who would not choose it? The bow, well, we're gonna get to that in just a second. The dagger, well, that was the problem. It was stolen, and Merlin doesn't know by who. This dagger was special. It was special because it had the power to allow anyone who wields it to become completely invisible. And Merlin had a vision that somebody was going to use that dagger to kill King Arthur. Somebody was going to sneak up on King Arthur, knock his Excalibur out of his hand, and then kill him. And that would prevent him from helping the Britons win the war. Merlin doesn't know who stole the dagger nor where it currently is, because the person who has it, well, is invisible, and Merlin can't see him through his vision. And that's where you come in. He says that he needs your help. He needs your help specifically. But why? Like, what could a level 63 archer do to help King Arthur against an invisible assassin? Well, remember that bow that we mentioned? Well, that's kind of the key. That was another one of the weapons that Merlin made for Arthur, but Arthur never used it because, well, obviously he wasn't an archer. But you are. You have the skill for it, you have the reputation, and the strength to use it to its maximum potential. That bow, of course, also had magical powers. It had the power to hit any target with 100% accuracy. All you had to do was just have your target in a line of sight, shoot the arrow, and no matter how you shot it, no matter how strong or how bad you shot it, it would always hit the target. It could never fail. And that's it. You have to find the bow and use it to kill the assassin. Even though the assassin is going to be invisible, according to Merlin, that bow is going to hit him no matter what, 100% accuracy. But there was kind of a problem, getting the bow. Where was it? Well, that was like the difficult part. Merlin says that it's currently in the stomach of a beast, but not just any beast. It was a beast called the questing beast. The questing beast was a mythical beast that was eventually added on to the Arthurian legend. Apparently, there was a woman who fell in love with her brother and wanted to have children with him. When the brother, of course, rejected her inappropriate love, the woman plotted with the devil to have him killed. Like, what is it with these medieval stories and their intense drama involving the devil, God, angels, demons, and so on? I'm not complaining, it's very interesting, but it's like, it can get crazy sometimes. In exchange for the devil's help, because the devil wasn't going to do this for free, she had to conceive a child from him. Unfortunately, once again, when she was pregnant, people didn't really believe her, and they accused the brother of being the father, which then they sentenced him to be killed by a bunch of wolves. Now the brother is then said to have apparently put a curse on the sister, and out of this whole thing, with the demon, the curse, and everything, we got the questing beast. One of the defining characteristics of the beast was that it made howling noises from its stomach that sounded exactly like a pack of wolves. Of course, this was because of the curse that the brother put on the sister. And that's one of the ways that you could find the beast if you really wanted to. Like, all you had to do was go in the general area that the beast was, listen for the wolves, and, well, there's your beast. So there's your quest. Find the beast, defeat it, get the bow, go to the battle, and kill the assassin before he kills Arthur. Merlin tells you that you cannot kill the beast. It's not going to work, it's not supposed to die just yet, at least according to the prophecy. Instead, he gives you an arrow, and tells you that you have to hit the beast with this arrow specifically. Merlin hid the bow inside the beast's stomach to prevent anyone from getting it, because Arthur wasn't going to use it, so then nobody should. The only way to get the bow out was to shoot the arrow directly in its stomach. Like the arrow and the bow, they kinda went together. However, Merlin tells you that there's one condition. The beast had to be unaware that it was being shot at. Once the arrow was shot, and if it was shot properly in the right spot, the bow would come out of the stomach, and the beast would run away deep into the forest, like it usually did when it was startled or when it was in low HP, leaving you free from any attack. That's actually why in the coming years, many knights would try to hunt the beast, but they would never succeed because it always kept running away, until eventually somebody did succeed. Merlin tells you that you cannot go alone. This is not a task that's meant for one person. You need to bring somebody to lure the beast and to distract it while you hide behind it or in a tree or something and then prepare your shot. Somebody strong enough to be able to tank the beast for long enough until you take your shot, but somebody also smart enough to not cause the beast to run away, as it usually did. Merlin knows of two potential knights that you could take with you. Great, strong knights that are the perfect candidates for this very difficult adventure. In fact, both of these knights would eventually become part of King Arthur's Round Table when he eventually goes on to create it. The thing is, you have to choose one of them. You can only take one. So which one do you pick? Is it Pellinore, a knight who has once defeated Arthur in a joust? Or is it Sagramore, a very powerful knight who accompanied Arthur on his quest for the Holy Grail? That choice, my friends, is up to you, and I would strongly recommend that you do some research because I haven't talked about anything regarding these two knights. Good luck. So, as usual, you guys have 24 hours to vote, after which I will release your choice. Whatever you guys choose, whatever you guys vote for in the poll, that's the video that you guys are going to see tomorrow. Do some research, leave a comment, and work together to collectively save King Arthur. My name has been Darius. It's been an absolute pleasure. Good luck, and I will see you all tomorrow.